There's no doubt that Boston has one of the most powerful three-point shooting percentages in the NBA and, in fact, in NBA history. But there is an ESPN analyst out there that thinks he may have found an Achilles heel that could prevent the Boston Celtics from going back-to-back for the first time since 2017 in the NBA. And, of course, that Achilles heel is going to lie on offense, which is pretty surprising. So we're going to break that down here on Celtics Today by Chat Sports. I am your host, Allie Barefoot. But before we hop into what this ESPN analyst has to say about Boston's offensive play, let me go on ahead and ask you guys to hit that thumbs up button for me if you guys think the Boston Celtics can go back-to-back. We're going to have a lot of different analysts coming out saying there's no way Boston can take down the Cavs. There's no way Boston can take down the Thunder. I fully believe that they have everything they need to win last year and this year and do the impossible. So go on ahead and hit that thumbs up button for me if you guys haven't already. So ESPN analyst Zach Kram is saying he thinks that Boston's offense is overall too slow. It lags. It doesn't have that spark that some of the other teams that are higher up in the standings possibly do have. Now, he's not questioning the three ball. We all know that that is absolutely dominant. But as an offense overall, he thinks that maybe down the stretch, the slowness of how they play could catch up to them in a negative way. So he broke it down here on Boston's offense saying, look, it's not easy to find a weakness in the Celtics, who joined the OKC Thunder with a top 5 offense and a defense. But one potential playoff problem for Boston is an overly methodical offense. And I don't mean the team's reliance on three-pointers. So he thinks that Boston almost plays safe. That we're not out here playing street ball, or we're not out here playing to our definite and highest potential. And when you look at the overall offensive ratings that Zach pointed out, Boston is kind of low in the rankings when it comes to pace of play. Well, they're 27th. Fast break points, they're last in the NBA with only 11.8 per game. Transition frequency at 16.0. And then something I found very interesting is that when Boston, who does dominate on defense, they grab a defensive rebound, it takes them 12 seconds to decide their next shot. That ranks 27th in the NBA. If they have a steal, a turnover, it takes them about 9 seconds to score on average after a turnover. And when you put it like that, it seems like the Boston Celtics are moving at a slug's pace. Obviously, it doesn't feel like that when you're watching the basketball game. And when I look at these statistics, the number one question I have for Zach is if you think Boston's offense is slow, then how did we win the NBA championship last year? How are we second in the Eastern Conference right now, and we have won over 56 games and lost 20 of them? It doesn't make sense to me that we can rank that low in all of the categories that are very mundane and off the box score, and you think that we have a lagging offensive skill set. But the answer is quite simple as to why Boston is technically considered slow, is because all they do is rely on the three ball. Not necessarily all they do, but majority of what they do is they just launch it from the perimeter to the point where they're over here breaking NBA records and the NBA regular season isn't even over yet. So because Boston doesn't play in a fast pace, if you will, they make up for it in an above average abundance of three-point attempts. And when you guys look at this, the other night, the Boston Celtics set the NBA record for total three-pointers made in a regular season with 1,364. Well, we beat out ourselves 2 years ago. Last year, we had 1,351. So obviously, under Joe Mazzulla, this is nothing new to you guys, Mazzulla ball is three-pointers, and they dominate it. But it's almost coming to a point where I understand Zach's point that if the three ball isn't falling, Boston may absolutely get stuck in a series. And the three ball, we have seen in some games this year, doesn't hit the way that we want it to. But there is a vast difference in how Joe Mazzulla and the Boston Celtics offense plays compared to the rest of the NBA. They are first in three-pointers in this season, averaging 45.9%. They are last in two-pointers attempted with 40.9% in the NBA. There needs to be a middle ground at some point, because if Boston does get stuck, they can't rely on their fast breaks, their pace of play, their scoring at their defensive rebounds, because we just saw it doesn't compare to the rest of the NBA. So what will the Boston Celtics do in a 7-game series if the three ball isn't falling the way we need it to? And we have seen this going up against top 5 teams so far in the regular season. We've seen the 24% when we lose a game to the Brooklyn Nets or to the Atlanta Hawks or the Indiana Pacers, a game that we should have won, but from downtown, Boston couldn't hit. Well, let me ask you guys this question, all right? I know you're going to say yes because I see it in your comments all the time. Does Boston rely too much on their threes? Type Y for yes, type N for no. Obviously, they're the best at it. That's why they take so many threes. But it comes to a point of, all right, if you're going 1 for 7, 1 for 8, at what point do you transition to inside the three-point line? Let me know in the comment section down below. I'll break down how Boston can try and adjust with if their three ball isn't falling in just a minute. But first, I do want to tell you guys about Prize Picks, our sponsor on today's show. If you guys haven't already, go on ahead, download the Prize Picks app. And when you get there, go on ahead and make a lineup. It's super easy to do so. All you guys have to do is just pick more or less on a player's projected stats, and you can win up to 1,000 times your cash. That's right, up to 1,000 times your cash. Springtime is here, and baseball season is officially underway. Don't miss your chance to add your favorite players from the Diamond and your Prize Picks lineup. But you can also mix and match player projections from different sports. Combine your favorite baseball players with players from basketball, hockey, esports, and much more. As you guys know, there is a very important game going on later tonight for college basketball. So I'm going to have Walter Clayton Jr. to have more than 20 points and LJ Cryer to have less than 5 rebounds and assists. I think Cryer's main job is going to be scoring the basketball tonight. So these are my Prize Picks. If you guys want to go on ahead and make your own, the second half of the basketball season is here, and the push to the playoffs is heating up on Prize Picks, the best place to cash in on your favorite sports. Go on ahead and test out your skills by downloading the app today. Use code CLNS. That'll get you $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Download the Prize Picks app. Use promo code CLNS. That'll give you guys $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. Go on ahead, test out your skills today. Download Prize Picks. Prize Picks. Run your game. Boston's lost 20 games so far this NBA season, which is a little bit more than I had expected considering what we did last year. But also, in 8 of those games, they shot under 30% from a three-point line. And those were losses against the Atlanta Hawks, the Golden State Warriors, the Milwaukee Bucks. Games where you probably should have been beating these teams, but because you couldn't find your offensive rhythm, it just felt like you were catching up the entire game. And we know what happens when Boston goes down. They start chucking threes to try and catch up and close that deficit. But Boston is actually averaging 5 less shots in the paint than last season. It feels like we're just not even making it a priority to try and score inside the paint. Now, I will give credit to a few players in the starting 5, which is who I'm talking about right now. Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, I do think they put on a couple extra pounds of muscle in the offseason, so they like to play bully ball down low. And, of course, the having Kristaps Porzingis back around the rim does help as well. But when Boston's starting 5, which goes Holiday, Derek White, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and Kristaps Porzingis, when their threes are not falling and they're shooting a team 17%, 24%, whatever it is, how Boston avoids getting stuck in the mud is adjusting the starting 5's game plan, allowing Jaylen Brown to continue to drive down inside. Same thing with Tatum, around the post, to fade away at the wing. But you need to still rely on your bench to still provide that three ball. You can't neglect the three ball altogether. That's what makes the Celtics so great and so intimidating, is that everybody can score. But the bench has to provide that three-point spark while the starting 5 gets it together on the ground. And I want to talk about Peyton Pritchard because he has a huge influence in changing the trajectory of a basketball game and providing that spark for Boston off the bench. Pritchard against top opponents this year has actually been pretty underrated in my opinion. Against the OKC Thunder, nobody shot well against the OKC Thunder from downtown. That's why they've been held twice now to under 30% from the three-point line. But the Cleveland Cavaliers, he is shooting 67% from the field and 40% from the three-point line, averaging 13 points against the Cavs, 10 against the Knicks, 17 against the Rockets, who are number 2 in the Western Conference as well. So relying on Peyton Pritchard has really worked out for the Boston Celtics, especially in the second half when Tatum cannot make a shot to save his life, when Holiday and Derek White are really lagging from the three-point line. Pritchard knows how to come in, and if his shot doesn't fall immediately, he will distribute in assisting or rebounding as well. But it can't just be Pritchard. That's not enough. I'm looking at Baylor Shireman. I'm looking at Sam Hauser to be the guy that we need him to be in the playoffs, because the regular season has been very up and down for Hauser. And if he's going to step up, it needs to be in the postseason. Because throughout the regular season against the same top opponents, he has not showed up the way that the obvious Sixth Man of the Year award winner should be, Peyton Pritchard, has. Sam Hauser against the OKC Thunder. I mean, dude, 0% from the field, 0% against the Houston Rockets in one game. And that's not like 2 minutes against the Rockets. It's 19 minutes played against the Houston Rockets. The Knicks, 3 games played, you're averaging 7 points, 6 points against the Cleveland Cavaliers. Hauser is going to need to step up because he comes in for the Jays. He substitutes in for a very pivotal position for the Boston Celtics. And I do think that last year, Hauser was a great asset off the bench in the playoffs. And overall, he shot 38% from downtown. That's huge for Boston that was going up against some pretty heavy defenses later on in the stretch of the playoffs. So if he does not step up, I have no problem playing Baylor Shireman over Sam Hauser. It sounds crazy because he is a rookie, but when Baylor Shireman checks in, he is a dog. He's scrappy as hell. He gives me Peyton Pritchard vibes, but he's just bigger and stronger than Pritchard is and can defend all 5 positions. I would give Hauser the first round. The first round to find his footing from shooting downtown. And if he does not have a good percentage, I'd go to Baylor Shireman. It's going to be prominent for the bench to come in and help the three-point shots if they're not falling, so Boston doesn't get stuck in the mud if they cannot find an offensive rhythm. And I'm going to need you guys to help the Boston Celtics find an offensive rhythm. If you want them to play well in the playoffs, please do not jinx this. I am very superstitious. I chewed the same bubblegum in every softball game I ever played. Like this video for me if you guys haven't already. Send us good vibes to play well in the playoffs. And if you want us to go live for the NBA playoffs, go on ahead, hit that sub button for me if you guys haven't already today. Help us grow this channel on Celtics Today by Chat Sports.